was you talking about, Mr. Bevel? This is Don Bevel. Don Bevel, Reverend Bevel's son.
Eldest son. I was told by my mother's cousin, I was heard about my daddy constantly supporting homosexuality. My mother's cousin, Ella Mae Williams, who's an Eastern Star, told me that my dad was a Mason. Jesse Jackson was a Mason. So since both of those brothers are Masons, she told me, this is the exact word she said, Reverend Bevel's not going to talk about Jesse Jackson's homosexuality, and Jesse Jackson's not going to talk about Reverend Bevel's pedophilia. That's the Masonic secret between those brothers.
Isn't Reverend Bevel your father?
I'm his eldest son. He do what he do, and he have a right to do what he do. That don't mean that includes me. Thanks. Keep on doing what you're doing.
And then we get to the juicy. The Reverend Jesse Jackson. Boy, Jesse was showing up a piece of work. Don't get messy with Jesse. Jesse Jackson, I remember about maybe 15 years ago when he came to find out that Jesse had fathered an outside child. It ain't the child's problem, so we don't want to talk about the child. But Jesse walking around talking about all this stuff, he's a reverend, and he fathered an outside child.
Jackson, the charismatic national symbol of human rights, the married father of 5 grown children. Who was that so-called other woman? What were your preconceptions about her? Tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with Karen Stanford, the mother of Jesse Jackson's baby. A private affair goes public.
When people call me a mistress, I'm pretty offended by that because I don't see myself as a mistress or a kept woman, which I think the term mistress implies. I'm a career-oriented woman and I work very hard.
39-year-old Karen Stanford is still coming to grips with her 4.5-year affair with the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Was she a cunning vixen who trapped the Reverend? Was Jackson a philanderer who set his sights on Stanford? Or was this an office romance that went too far? To understand Karen Stanford's point of view, you have to go back almost 30 years. Jesse Jackson, who had been one of Martin Luther King's lieutenants, was now becoming an established leader of the African-American community.
I am somebody.
He inspired students touring schools across the country. Karen Stanford was one of those kids who watched the charismatic leader speak at her elementary school.
I was a kid that tended to look at the cracks of the sidewalk when I walked down the street. I remember counting the sidewalks and skipping to school. But after listening to Reverend Jesse Jackson say to us as kids,
I may be poor.
You know, you may be poor, you may not be rich, you may come from the ghettos, but you are somebody. And don't ever walk with your head down. Raise your head up high. I remember that. This guy is a true believer. I was won over.
4 years later, Karen Stanford would come face to face with Jackson again, this time as a University of Georgia professor, turning her dissertation into a book.
After that meeting, which lasted all day, he called me up about a week later and said, hey, I want you to come work for me.
And what did you think of that?
Well, I was floored. I didn't expect that.
For Stanford, it was a dream job, but it didn't take long before her relationship with the man 20 years her senior, married with 5 children, began to take a personal turn.
From what I understood about Reverend Jackson's marriage was that it was basically a political marriage, a marriage of convenience at that point.
Did Jesse Jackson explain to you that he had no relationship with his wife?
In so many words, he said to me that our relationship would not interfere with any other relationship that he had.
How would you describe your relationship with Jesse Jackson?
We did what other couples do. We went to the park. We went to the movies.
You didn't hide? You didn't sneak around?
No. No.
Well, I'm getting the impression that you were not in any way ashamed of the relationship.
No. And he wasn't either.
Did he make any promises to you?
No, I think we both knew our relationship had limitations.
What kind of future did you believe you would have together?
I didn't think we'd have a future together. I just thought it was something we were doing for the moment. But we both knew it would end. We just didn't know when.
Stanford discovered she was pregnant. Did you think, when you found out you were pregnant, that it was Jesse Jackson's baby?
Oh, I knew it was his child. Oh, absolutely. We took all the precautions that one would take when they're trying not to have a child, and it happened anyway.
Although Stanford's doctors told her that a pregnancy could cause a life-threatening cancer relapse, she decided alone to go forward with the pregnancy.
I knew that it was probably going to be my only opportunity to have a child. I also remember praying over and over again, asking God to give me that one chance in life to have a baby. And so I couldn't just say, well, God, it's not the right time. I couldn't do it. I didn't feel like I had a choice in the matter. I had to have the baby.
Meanwhile, Stanford says she thought Jesse Jackson was considering a run for president in the year 2000, while she was deciding whether to tell him that she was pregnant.
I did not want my pregnancy to interfere. And so I told him that I had been dating someone else and that I was going to get engaged, get married, and leave town.
But did you think about the consequences that this would be Jesse Jackson's baby? And if anybody found out, it would be in the headlines.
I thought about it all the time, and that's why I asked a friend of mine to play fiancé.
Did you think you could perpetuate that fabrication?
Yeah, I did. I thought I could just leave Washington, D.C. and move back to California and that it would be over.
In January of 1998, while Jesse Jackson was having an extramarital affair with Karen Stanford, ironically, he also began advising President Clinton about his affair with Monica Lewinsky.
The president sustained by his faith.
Some people would think it was disingenuous, it was hypocritical for him to be advising President Clinton during the Lewinsky affair and at the same time having an affair himself.
I don't think it was hypocritical at all. Not at all, nor disingenuous. I think that he could empathize with President Clinton because he was in a similar situation. And who better to give you advice than someone who's walked in your shoes?
Jackson was even so bold as to bring Stanford to the White House during their affair, although he didn't know at the time she was pregnant with his child. You're pregnant with Jesse Jackson's baby, and you go see President Clinton, who's in the thick of the Lewinsky affair, and you don't think that's strange?
Maybe it was strange, but I couldn't focus on the president and Monica Lewinsky. I was too busy trying to save my life, trying to make life and death decisions about cancer and pregnancy, and I was trying to find ways to keep the pregnancy hidden because I knew that, it would become a media circus.
And while Jackson was helping the president put his political life back together, Jackson's personal life began to unravel. While Stanford had told Jackson the father of her child was another man, Jackson eventually realized the baby was his. Ultimately, Jackson withdrew his name as a potential presidential candidate.
Jesse Jackson announced he will not make a third run for the presidency.
Although Jackson vehemently denies it, Stanford claims the impending birth of her baby played a part in his decision.
I think he was concerned that because reporters were calling and asking about who the father of my baby was, his concern was that they would focus more on his personal life rather than his campaign platform.
Do you think he would have wanted you to handle it differently?
To terminate the pregnancy?
Possibly.
I don't think so. Although he is pro-choice publicly, and he truly believes that, he has a difficult time with abortion. I mean, his mother, I think she was about 15 or 16 when she got pregnant with him, and he always said to me, if my mother had abortion as an option, could you imagine? I wouldn't be here.
On May 18th, Karen Stanford quietly gave birth to his baby girl, Ashley. Were you upset that the father of your baby wasn't there?
No, I just did what I had to do. And we were in a very unconventional, untraditional situation.
Whom do you think she looks like?
She looks like her father. Absolutely. She looks very similar to her siblings. Not me nor my siblings, but Jackson's children.
What kind of relationship did Jesse Jackson have with you and Ashley after she was born?
He was her father. He was concerned about her just like any father would be. He checked on her, he came to visit her, he played with her. She knew him as daddy.
Privately, Stanford says Jackson continued to see her, stopping in Los Angeles to visit their out-of-wedlock baby, keeping her existence under wraps. That is, until a tabloid reporter called. The explosive story was going to hit the newsstand soon.
I was mortified. We just weren't ready for it. I wasn't ready for that.
Although Stanford had kept her family in the dark about the baby's true father, Stanford says Jackson had already told his family.
His family already knew.
They did?
Oh, yes. He had told his family about the baby probably a year and a half before the story became public.
Knowing the world would soon hear about his affair and Ashley from a tabloid, Jackson decided to go public first. In a statement, he said, "I fully accept responsibility, and I am truly sorry for my actions." Did you ever use your situation to try and get Jesse Jackson to pay you any amount of money?
Absolutely not. It never came up. We didn't have conversations about money and coercion and blackmail and I need things and you better give them to me. It just wasn't that kind of relationship.
Yet when Miss Stanford left, she received $35,000.
Both Jackson and Stanford said she did receive two payments, $15,000 for moving expenses and another $20,000 for a research study, all of which Jackson defended as legitimate business expenses.
There is no evidence that there's any inconsistency or impropriety in the way that...
But now their relationship has become strained. Jackson asked Stanford to sign a confidentiality agreement.
First of all, I was shocked. I hadn't expected it. I had basically kept the details of our relationship confidential since I began seeing Reverend Jackson. And so then to be hit with a confidentiality agreement was highly insulting to me.
She never signed. Infuriated, Stanford took Jackson to court to formalize the $4,000 a month he had been paying in child support. She also wants a written agreement for what she says he had already privately promised, to make sure Ashley's future is secure.
Strawberries. From my experience with breast cancer, we don't know what the future holds, and Ashley should be taken care of financially.
The story becoming public and the court battle that followed apparently caused Jackson to curtail his visits to his daughter. But just last month, he resumed. What do you want from Jesse Jackson in this settlement?
I want Jesse Jackson to be a father to Ashley.
What are these?
What are they? I want us to have very clear visitation guidelines.
Well, tell me what color. Look at the color.
Because he grew up in a similar situation. He was born out of wedlock by, you know, a teenage mother and a father who wasn't really a father to him. And so he understands the hurt and the pain it causes.
If you had it to do over, would you not have had a relationship with Jesse Jackson?
I can't say that because without Reverend Jackson, I wouldn't have Ashley. And I don't regret her for 1 second. I call her my miracle baby. I'm convinced she was supposed to be here and I was supposed to be her mom. And I'm very proud of that.
Bye. Bye-bye.
I'm very proud of my decision not to terminate her. And I know it's caused a lot of pain. I know it's caused a lot of problems for people, but she's here. And she's happy and she's healthy.
Yeah, Jesse Jackson. They caught him on a hot mic saying that he was going to castrate Barack Obama, so he's going to cut off his, you know what, calling black people N-word.
Well, the Reverend made those remarks there during a break. He was being interviewed on the Fox News channel. Jackson says he didn't realize his microphone was still on. Today, he was in full damage control, apologizing for what he calls trash talk.
Trash talk, garbage, and that's why I want you to be careful about trash talk, because what's private sometimes becomes public, and something we use words we shouldn't use and language we shouldn't use. And then when it becomes public, it becomes embarrassing. Because we fall down sometime. We get back up again because the ground is no place for a champion. And I am a champion of this cause to make the world better and make our nation more secure.
Well, the Reverend goes on to say he supports the Obama campaign wholeheartedly. The Obama camp released a statement saying the Illinois senator accepts Jackson's apology.
But worse than that was directly after the assassination of Martin Luther King, the actions of Jesse Jackson, which are amazing. A lot of people don't know what Jesse Jackson did. King had gotten shot, and Of course he had died, and they were all they had left him at the hospital, and they came back to the Lorraine Motel. They'd all decided that nobody was going to talk to the press, nobody was going to go anywhere, that we were going to all stay together, and they were going to organize what they were going to do and say, and this and that and the other. Of course, Jesse said, okay. Well, they said that Martin Luther King never ever trusted Jesse Jackson for a whole lot of reasons. And Martin saw in Jesse a Machiavellian type of mindset. So Ralph Abernathy writes about what Jesse did after the Lorraine Motel, after King had got shot. This is what Ralph says. He said, it seems that shortly after the ambulance had left, the press had on the place cameras and crews and reporters, local staff, network, all eager to put someone on camera to tell the story. Jesse and Jose had both agreed that until they knew what had happened, they would avoid the press and stay out of sight. At least that's what Hosea had thought was the understanding. So he was more than a little surprised to look out the window and see Jesse Jackson standing in front of several cameras speaking into a microphone that a reporter was holding in his face. Curious, Hosea slipped outside and eased up behind Jesse, though on the other side of the chain link fence. Yes, Jesse was saying, I was the last person he spoke to as I was cradling him in my arms. Just a lie. King had just left in the ambulance, and Jesse Jackson was lying, saying he was cradling him in his arms. He was the last person that spoke to him. Jesse was nowhere around King when he got shot. He was down in the parking lot. With a roar of anger, Hosea started cursing and halfway up the chain fence before one of the others pulled him down and held him until his anger had cooled. But Jackson had told the same story, or nearly the same, the morning on the Today Show. So he went on to the Today Show, told the same lie. Indeed, that afternoon, Jesse appeared before the Chicago Council wearing a blood-stained shirt. A blood-stained shirt. A fake blood-stained shirt. Martin Luther King Jr. was dead. Hadn't been dead 24 hours. Jesse Jackson had gone and got a shirt and put fake blood on it. A fake blood, wearing a blood-stained shirt, saying that it was the same shirt he had been wearing the previous evening when he held Martin. On June 23rd, 1987, the Washington Post confirmed the story. Think about this, y'all. Supposedly your best friend has just got killed in front of you. You're supposed to be in the fetal position, crying your eyes out. I don't know. Jesse Jackson has the wherewithal to get in front of the cameras and lie and say, I was holding him when he died, left and got a bloody shirt, put fake blood on it, say he was holding him, he was cradling him when he died. All of it a lie. That's Jesse Jackson.
We were discussing the Washington movement, Poor People Campaign in Washington. And that afternoon, we were in the meeting, and someone said, Reverend Billy Kyles is outside, and he's upset. And Dr. King said, oh my God, I forgot to tell y'all, I promised his wife, who's supposed to be a great soul food cooker, we'd have our feet on her table at 5:30. Now it's 5:45, and we sit in the meeting. Dr. King said, everybody rush, rush, rush. And get ready in a hurry, let's go. So I ran down and got to my room. My key wouldn't open my door for some strange reason. The limousine that had been loaned to us, I opened my door, I could touch the limousine. And finally I heard the driver tell Dr. King, Dr. King, I advise you get your top coat, because even though I have the car on, it's still chilly. And the last words he said in this world, okay, Jonesy, I'll get my top coat. And I heard this thing say, pow! And I honestly thought someone had thrown a firecracker into the air. And I looked around to rebuke whoever was that stupid. And I heard something, bloop-a-loop, fell up above my head. And I looked up, and his leg was sticking through the rail. Dr. King only wore one type of sock and one type of shoe. And I knew that was him. I said, oh, my God, they got it. And then I had to run about 50 feet down and back up, and I got to him. And Ralph was holding his head, and Andy was there. And a guy from Africa who had been traveling with us as a newsman from Africa. We found out later on he was working for the CIA. No, the FBI, working for the FBI. And he had taken a lot of pictures of Dr. King. And I grabbed him in the throat and started choking him because the bullet hit Dr. King right here. And it went round and cut his medulla oblongata. And I didn't want people to remember Dr. King with half his face shut off. So Andy ran and got a towel. And somehow or another they took one more picture after I made him empty that camera. And it shows Dr. King down with a towel on his face. But I'm going to tell you, I was an expert gunner in World War II. When I ran up on that balcony and I looked from whence that bullet had to come, the distance of that bullet, and just could feel the wind blowing that day, I said, whomever shot that rifle was one of the best in the world. He shot one bullet. And I believe if Dr. King hadn't moved to go back and get his top coat, the bullet would have hit him between the eyes. The bullet hit him right here. But what happened, and then Ralph said, we'll go in and take him on to the hospital. Jose, you get all the staff together. 3 of us saw it, Dr. King, after he was shot. 3 SLC executive staff members. Andy, Abernathy, and Jose Williams. Those are the 3 that saw that body. Now listen to that. So I got in the yard, and I was about to lose my cool, because I was thinking if I could take some molecules out there and make me some guns and kill me some white folks. And one man said, now be cool. You're doing the same thing you promised me you'll never do. And I started crying, and then I heard Jesse Jackson say, he told me, Jesse, take our people on to the mountaintop. And that didn't bother me, even though I know Jesse got nowhere near him. And then Jesse said, I held his head in my hand while he died. And that didn't get to me. And then Jesse said, look at my shirt. And I looked around, sure enough, and Jesse Jackson's shirt was drenched in blood. And I realized the only way Jesse could have gotten that blood was stoop down on that floor at the Lorraine Motel and rake that blood off that floor and put that blood on him. And I went crazy. I really tried to kill Jesse. They grabbed us and all that, but that hurt me so bad. The other thing was, when Abernathy came back, says, no need of prayer, no need of crying, no need of nothing. He is gone. It's over with. He's gone to glory. And we called the meeting, the staff meeting, and Jesse claimed to have been ill. And Abernathy told him, Jesse, go ahead to the room and relax. Jesse had to have run like hell that room into that airport because he got out of Memphis to Chicago. All us feeling, everybody was still in the motel. Cut the televisions on the next morning, and that was Jesse Jackson in Chicago with that same bloody shirt on, telling that same lie. I've never respected Jesse since that moment. When they shot Dr. King, a black guy come running around that corner saying, he went that way, he went that way. James Earl Ray no more killed Dr. King, and I killed him. And everybody knew it. He was a Apache set up. And the guy said, went that way, went that way. I said, who went that way? He said, that man ran out that building and dropped the rifle on the sidewalk and jumped in a white Mustang, had a red Alabama tag, and took off. Well, hell, I wasn't worried. That's no car in America look like a Mustang, but a Mustang, a white with red Alabama tag. Where's he going? The police have him like that. And I asked that rifle was left on that sidewalk. That was the rifle that James Earl Ray had purchased, but that was not the bullet that killed Dr. King.
Remember, Jesse Jackson went before. He was on his plane running when he was running for president. And they asked him about going to New York City. He called New York Hammy-town. Hammy-town, Hammy is a slang for being a Jewish person. And Jesse, we're going to Hammy-town. And this reporter wrote it just at the,
I'm Jesse Jackson. And I was recently quoted in the Washington Post as referring to a certain group of people as Jaimes. They also said that I called New York Hammy-town. I realize that kind of talk isn't kosher.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I messed up. Dude was anti-Semitic, called black folks the N-word, running women, got outside child, holding Dr. King, lying about the assassination of Dr. King, your best friend. Lordy, 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 Lordy. But these are the people that led the civil rights movement. These bunch of weirdos, malcontents, and perverts. And all right, friends, VinceEverettEllison is here. I want you to go to my website. And on my website, you're gonna see a lot of great stuff, man. You're gonna see that we got t-shirts, we got caps, you got my books, my documentaries, you got all kinds of stuff on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go there. We're dropping new t-shirts, we're dropping new merchandise. My new book, The End of Tolerance, is there. The End of Tolerance. Make sure you get it, make it #1. If you got my first 3, get The End of Tolerance. It's just as good, and it's telling us we have to end our tolerance with these leftists, these Democrats. We can no longer allow them to sexually groom our children. We can no longer allow them to castrate little boys and call them little girls, run God out of the public square, take away our guns, take away our sovereignty. No longer allow it. So go on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. That is VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Hit merchandise. You'll see the t-shirts. You'll see the caps. You'll see the books. You'll see the documentaries. You'll see it all. And let's keep this ball rolling. God bless you.